search Machete, it just pulls up like.
Yeah, why did you do that?
Because the movie.
A movie.
Well, now that Hans is here,
Finally,
and I've seen Dobie, I am going to exit. Y'all have fun.
Okay, we will. Finally.
love you, babe.
Love you too.
Finally.
But you can't check your six. It's kind of like, taking a screwdriver to a gunfight. What's happening? Just like on top.
Okay. I don't know if I really want to talk about this one, honestly. It's so different.
That's what we do here.
I don't know if I know how to talk about a well-made movie.
So I had the exact same thought. I don't really know. I feel like I need to watch it a second time to be able to actually talk about it because there was so much going on.
Well, okay.
What? And so much going on that made sense. And I don't know how to. We have spent 30 some odd episodes commenting on absolute trash tier garbage, and I don't know if I know how to speak intelligently about an intelligently made film.
Not off the cuff, certainly.
Well, real quick.
Yeah.
Did you? I know the answer to this, but did you two do the little homework that I assigned earlier?
Of course
this
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're good. I knew Aaron did.
Okay, cool.
I wasn't sure.
Why would you assume that I wouldn't?
Because you didn't watch the movie itself and you didn't start watching till 7 p.m.
That's as is the usual.
Okay, but this is an hour and 45 minutes if you can do math. So if we're planning to get on to record at 8:30 and you started at 7 p.m., what time do you think, how many minutes late to the recording do you think you'll be?
Okay, I forgot that we were watching Machete this week. I thought it was going to be another hour, and I thought it was going to be another 90-minute piece of garbage. We've had for the past 32 episodes.
Oh, I still have 10 minutes left. I wish I could just fast forward this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Listen, I timed it out. I timed it out so that if I started watching, it
Clearly
was 6. I think it was 6:55. So that I knew that if I was watching a 90-minute piece of garbage, then I would be good. I would be on time for 8:30. I forgot that we were watching Machete, and as soon as I put it on, I deeply regretted my decisions because I wish I actually had more time to pay proper attention to this movie.
Of all the movies that I thought you would actually watch the weekend before,
I forgot. I forgot that this is what we were watching.
I've been anticipating this. I've been psyching myself up to watch the one good movie on the list.
Yeah. Sarah, literally, she asked me, "Oh, did you watch your movie?" I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Oh, because this is one that you were kind of looking forward to, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Yeah, out of 50. Yeah, the one.
One. And then I have a suggestion about how we're going to talk about it.
Oh, okay.
How we ought to talk. I have a suggestion for framing the conversation.
Okay, well, let's...
Yeah.
Okay, what's your suggestion, Aaron?
So, I think we should split this into 2 conversations.
Okay.
First, we talk about Machete as just a movie, just talking about the movie, and then set all that aside, and then talk about it as a Seagal film.
Okay.
Oh, I would say the inverse.
Well,
get the dregs out of the way first, because we're gonna want to talk about this movie.
No, but I think we need to talk about this is what the movie is. If you watch a movie, this is what happens, and then we have to relate it to but why are we actually watching? What role does Seagal really play?
Because I was not to skip ahead to the end, but I was shocked at how much Seagal was in this movie.
Yeah, but we can't start off and be like, okay, so let's just talk about the villain. I'm with it. We're gonna talk about the movie first.
Mm-hmm. So
that's gonna be you realize this is gonna end up being 2 hours. We're gonna talk an hour and a half about this movie, and then we're gonna realize, oh crap, it's 10:30 at night, and we haven't actually talked about Seagal at all. No. That's what's gonna happen.
No. Okay, the one thing I need to just suggest though is I feel like this needs, out of all the movies we've watched, this one needs the standard plot recap.
Yes.
I think this also needs a how this movie came to exist recap.
It is,
which I am able to provide.
It is very strange, but
yes, it's very fun.
Fascinating.
For
Go for
lovers of film.
I'm gonna do my best to shut up and just let you
plot
go for
recap
it.
or how the movie existed recap?
Both. Spin me a yarn.
God.
But both first.
Oh my god. Just go.
Okay,
well, I think it'd be good to do like the background and then say,
okay.
here's the product that came out
And
of
then
it.
here's the movie. Okay. Hello. Hi. Now that all the agenda meeting minutes have been read and that all the, Robert's Rules of Orders have been followed.
We didn't do old business, but that's fine.
Old business. 30 some crap movies. New business. Fairly decent movie. My name is Zach. This is Steven See It All.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Hans.
Today's Steven Seagal movie is Machete.
If you could call it that.
A Danny Trejo led film, which tangentially involves Steven Seagal.
Yes.
If we truly were limiting ourselves to Steven Seagal led features, this would not make the list, but I think
arguably Against the Dark wouldn't make the list either.
Arguably.
Yeah.
I think one of you tried to say, hey, I don't know, should we do Machete? Does that fit? And I said, please, no, don't take this from me. Like, this is one that I'm looking forward to. So this doesn't really fit the podcast as much as every other one that we've watched, but like, please don't take this from us. Let us have this. So 2010 mexploitation film Machete, directed by Robert Rodriguez and Ethan Maneki. First, this is fairly well known, so if you're listening to this, you may already know how it came to be, but just to give a little background, this movie did not come to exist in the way most movies come to exist. So it starts in 2007, I believe. Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez decide they want to do a throwback to the grindhouse exploitation films that a lot of times when you're a filmmaker, you do a throwback to the movies you grew up on. I hope these aren't actually the movies they grew up on, but a grindhouse theater would play like bottom of the barrel, like super cheap schlocky stuff, like cheap tickets, just all day showings, all night showings. So they put together a double feature titled Grindhouse, featuring the films Death Proof and Planet Terror. Included with that, so we're not actually talking about those movies.
No.
But included with that, there were a few trailers for movies that did not exist, but actually quite a few of them, a slight majority of them do exist now.
Yeah.
So this is just with the intention of like, hey, it's going to make you feel like you're at the movie theater, like it's going to play these trailers for other movies, but like they're just joke trailers. They don't actually exist.
Like Women Werewolves of the SS. Werewolf Women of the SS? Yeah, that one. That's what it was called. That was very funny.
So we had Werewolf Women of the SS, which was directed by Rob Zombie. So, so real quick, they were talking about this idea. They wanted to do like, they came up with the idea for these fake trailers, and then they kind of just ended up talking to other like director friends about it, and they were like, oh, hey, we want to make some things for that. Like they didn't plan to like recruit directors, but once they started talking about the idea, these other people got on board. So Rob Zombie directed Werewolf Women of the SS, where, real quick plot synopsis, the Nazis are making women who are also werewolves, who are also super high-tech Nazis, and
like super soldier program for the Nazis,
Yeah.
except it's exclusively women, and they just turn them into werewolves.
yeah, and it's a trailer. I'm not going to spend more than like 10 seconds summing it up, or else
No.
just watch the trailer. These are all like 2 minutes long. Then we have Don't, which is directed by Edgar Wright, actually, and is basically just everything they say don't do in a horror movie, the characters are doing. So it's like, don't open that door, don't look behind you, don't do this, don't do this. We have Thanksgiving, which is a Thanksgiving themed horror movie. That one was directed by Eli Roth. And then, of course, Machete, directed by Robert Rodriguez himself. So in addition to directing one of the features, he directs this one. And there's a whole history of this. Like, he's just had this Machete character around for a while. This is technically a spin-off of the Spy Kids universe,
Which that will come up later.
That will come up later. Where Danny Trejo is playing the same character he played in Spy Kids 1 and 2. And then we had Hobo with a Shotgun, which is pretty fun because that was like not done by a professional director in the same way that the other ones were. It was Jason Eisner. It was some, if I remember correctly, it was like a South by Southwest like film that then they picked up and kind of like brought into it, kind of fit the theme of what they were doing. So this was not like a professional established director that they hired. This was a more up and coming kind of talent.
Yeah.
I have not actually watched all of, like, some of these movie trailers will go on to become full movies. So obviously Machete, the one being discussed tonight. I know Hobo with a Shotgun was made into a full movie. Thanksgiving is actually apparently coming out sometime in 2023.
What?
I didn't see official, like, a full release date, but I saw, like, there's a full feature-length version that Eli Roth is making that's coming out. So with Hobo with a Shotgun, Machete, and Thanksgiving, that's like 3 out of the 5 have been made into full movies. I don't know if Edgar Wright is planning to make Don'ts. I don't know if Werewolf Women of the SS will be made into a full movie. It probably shouldn't out of all of them.
Yeah. That one has Nicolas Cage in it, though.
That one did have Nicolas Cage playing Fu Manchu. So if there's a reason that one shouldn't probably be made into a full movie. So if you're anything like me, I actually hadn't watched all of Grindhouse, hadn't watched all of Machete before this. But I had seen these trailers, like, they went viral on YouTube, essentially. Like, even if you didn't know what Grindhouse was, even if you don't watch Planet Terror or anything, like, you probably saw these. You probably saw out of all of them Machete or Hobo with a Shotgun. Those are the two I remember seeing that went the most viral. And what's impressive is this was like a joke trailer made in 2007. And when you watch both the real trailer for the movie in 2010 and the film itself in that came out in 2010, very close to this trailer. Like, this trailer was not just some, like, kind of proof of concept with completely different actors and completely different like,
they reuse footage.
That trailer directly come into the movie. The same exact footage comes into the movie.
Yeah.
So that, I believe, so basically it goes viral enough, and they're like, hey, it's a movie called Machete, where Danny Trejo is a dude with machetes and he kills people with machetes. And there's a priest who also kills people with shotguns, and people kind of liked the gimmick enough that they willed it into existence, and it became a feature-length movie. Is that all of the important background on how this came to be?
Yeah, I think that's all we need to get started here.
Yeah, so it's just very interesting concept. So the film itself, 2010 feature film, Machete. Where does this? Oh, so it starts off. Let's just run through this. So this isn't a 3-hour long episode.
Too late.
Machete is a Mexican federale. He's with his partner. They are attempting to rescue a kidnapped girl. Partner is killed so fast,
like instantly.
It's like, hey, I'm with you till the end, and then it dies.
Now is the end.
Might be faster than the fastest partner death in any Seagal movie we've seen thus far.
Think might be faster than the fastest partner death in any movie. Not even just what we watched for this podcast. But they go in. Machete, of course, kills a bunch of people. He finds this woman who is completely naked. He's like carrying her out. She's an adult woman, but he's like carrying her out. And then she's like, oh, hey, a nice machete. Is it sharp? And he's like, yeah. And then she uses it to stab him in the leg. Oh, no, he's been betrayed. We find out the chief that's in charge of him that he was talking to earlier in the movie betrayed him. He's a drug lord. And also, Steven Seagal. Here he is. He kind of shows up, like, I don't know, sooner than I was expecting. I'm not sure, but like, I'm just, there's Seagal. They killed the woman that Machete was rescuing, and then they're like, oh, it's honorable to die by cutting your head off. Oh, we killed your wife, and we're going to kill your daughter, and it'd be honorable to cut your head off. We're not going to do that. We're going to burn down the building you're in.
Yeah.
And so they light on fire, and then 3 years later, Machete is working as a day laborer in Texas near the U.S.-Mexican border, doing yard work and such. A man hires a man whose character's name was Booth.
Yes.
Hires him in order to kill a state senator. So this is where we already have
Booth, played by Jeff Fahey, who Hans should know, seeing as he was in 34 episodes of Lost.
He was Lapidus,
which I've never watched, but
one of the best characters.
He's also one of the best characters in this. But anyway,
it's the best pilot in the world.
At this point, now we have like the 3 or 4
Why am I the
or 5
only one that knows these references?
Because none of us watch Lost.
Yeah.
So we have 3 or 4 or 5 different competing like factions of villains, and we're starting to like learn all of them. Like, honestly, this movie has way more plot than I think like ready for.
I was not expecting like a story here or themes or like an argument to make.
I really thought movie is just Machete is going to kill people with a machete, and that does happen, yes. But then it's like we're going to talk about the way America and Americans like respond and like propagandize and politicize illegal immigration.
Yeah,
and that's like actually a lot of the movie.
In like a really nuanced way.
Yeah, and it's but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So we have a Texas state senator who basically, this came out in 2010, but like he's making like Donald Trump campaign ads. He's saying, I want to build a wall. They're sending like murderers and rapists and drug dealers, and like I want to deport them all. Actually, he not even just want to deport them all. They have a scene where he's literally shooting people who are trying to cross the border, like with a gun. Him and his like vigilante, like a border patrol
posse,
like
thing,
posse goons.
Yeah,
again, a whole other faction of bad guys in this movie. So Booth says, I want to hire you to kill this guy because I want to have a steady supply of cheap labor. That's ostensibly what he tells me. He says, I will give you $150,000 and also you have to do this, like, or I will like, hurt you. So Machete prepares to shoot the state senator whose name is McLaughlin. But
played by
we are not. You're skipping ahead.
How is that skipping ahead?
That's not skipping ahead.
Because we have a whole section where we talk about who plays who and what
okay, but like when you're going through this whole thing, I want people to know as they're imagining the plot.
You're taking forever to get through. You're like dragging this along.
I want everyone to be able to imagine the face because the senator is
out
played.
Of all the times we've done recaps, this is not the time you can say I am dragging things along.
The senator is played by Robert De Niro. And it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Robert De Niro is here. He's just having a fun time.
Yes.
Now, will you let me do my plot recap, Hans? Aaron?
Hurry.
Yes.
I am hurrying. I'm giving people what they need to know. He goes to kill Robert De Niro, but oops, he was set up. There's another guy there and it's a false flag, and this guy shoots at Machete. Machete has to get away. So it turns out what's actually happening is that Booth works for, see, this is the problem, is that now I can't even like think of McLaughlin. I'm just like thinking De Niro. Booth works for De Niro. And they are actually opposed to immigration. Because Booth is a drug smuggler and he doesn't like that there's a steady supply of drugs coming from across the Mexican border. He wants to control the supply. De Niro, he just wants to do it because he's just like a Texas politician. He just hates immigration.
He's not actually from Texas.
He's not actually from Texas, but
hates the heat.
That's honestly pretty standard. So, but they did this to make it look like he was going to get assassinated, and then they could blame it on this person from Mexico to boost his poll ratings because he is not looking like he'll win re-election. But after this assassination attempt, poll ratings go up. Meanwhile, all of this is happening. See now, I'm just like going to do like the people's names. Jessica Alba, is an ICE agent who is investigating illegal immigration in Texas. Michelle Rodriguez operates a taco truck and is also a revolutionary figure who leads this underground group that
also
helps people across the.
It's true.
My rhythm. You keep throwing off the rhythm.
Throwing off his groove.
My groove. You've thrown off the Emperor's groove. Michelle Rodriguez helps run this faction group that helps these people settle as they move to America. Let's see here, there's like probably like 15 or 20 minutes or so there that you don't need, because what's the next actual like plot beat that would matter next? Is it when Machete is just on the run for a while now? Oh, he's in the hospital.
He teams up with Michelle Rodriguez first.
Yeah, well, he's in this hospital where he's like rescued by this like underground group, and then Bootsmen are coming to get him. You have like this action scene where Machete like fights them off. He like uses a dude's like guts, like his intestines, to rappel down like into it. This is when you have some like the wild shots that you see in the trailer. He has a priest friend,
his brother.
I'm muting you. No talking.
Keep going. Oh my god.
He has his brother because he goes father, which is very fun, who is a priest and doesn't want to kill people, but also very much wants to kill people. And we've talked about the depictions of priests in these movies before. Get ready. This is going to be like a whole like 20-minute thing from Aaron. So basically, you can probably just summarize like, the middle chunk of this movie, a lot of like bad guys going after good guys going after bad guys. Machete sleeps with Michelle Rodriguez. He sleeps with Jessica Alba's character. He sleeps with the state senator. Booth's daughter and wife. Daughter played by Lindsay Lohan. And and this is filmed. And so he goes to Booth's house to get like evidence, find some stuff, and leaves this film behind of him sleeping with the daughter and wife. And then he drugs them to knock them out, and Machete kidnaps the daughter and wife to bring to the church. And the priest is very sketchy, like, oh, I'll find a use for them. There's vigilantes going to have everyone's like hunting after Machete. He's, big man in town. Some of the bad guys go to the church. Priest kills a bunch of them. They kill the priest. Very sad. Machete ends up finding like this underground group, and they're like, we're just gonna basically do all out war on the border patrol, like vigilante assholes, and like the senator, like on everyone.
Don't forget that he gave all the evidence to Jessica Alba, who gave it to the news media.
Yeah, that her boss is like, no, don't do it, and she's like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do what's right, and she gives this evidence to the media. So then the senator is having a press conference where it is revealed that he shot someone trying to cross the border, and that all these other recordings are compromising him, and that is the assassination was faked, and that the guy that works for him is a drug smuggler. And so this is when he just becomes chaos wildcard. So he was a state senator, and now he's going to the vigilante group of border patrol guards and just like, give me a vest and gun, but then they kidnap him, and like they're gonna make him record like, how he violated the Constitution and like, betrayed America, and then they're gonna like execute him like live on TV. But this is when Machete and his whole crew come in,
which was awesome.
Just picture, I'm not even joking, this is gonna sound like I'm the most racist man alive whenever I say this, but it is literally just a group of like 50 Mexican men all in low riders, like armed with guns, and just like bopping the hydraulics, like
just the most proudly Mexican thing you've ever seen.
They just like shoot rockets, and they just like storm the gates, and then there's just all out gunfights. Michelle Rodriguez, earlier it seemed like she was killed. She wasn't really. They just shot her in the eye, so now she's here wearing an eye patch and like looking all sexy and stuff. I didn't even mention that before because like you not for a single second actually think she's dead, especially considering it's literally in the trailer that she like comes back with an eye patch. And this is I guess I should This is the Steven Seagal podcast. Basically, the whole time, Steven Seagal is like in charge of Booth and the state senator, and he just keeps calling them in and being like, hey, you guys better do what I need. You better take care of this Machete guy. Like, this is the guy that I tried to kill like 3 years ago. Like, now you got to kill him. And then he just shows up at the end. Like, he's just been like chilling over webcam for the whole movie.
Yeah.
At the end here, he and Machete have a machete/katana sword fights. Machete wins. There's just a gut sticking in Seagal's belly, and he's just like, I could kill you so easily right now, but then you'd be in hell waiting for me. And then he just like commits seppuku and just his guts out
in like the lamest way.
Lindsay Lohan shows up. She's wearing a nun outfit now. She's a nun or just dressed like a nun. She like shoots at people, but she like doesn't shoot anyone to kill. She just shoots guns out of people's hands.
Yeah.
But she does shoot the state senator because he killed her father earlier in this movie.
Yeah.
Then the state senator there, he survives, but then he gets killed by his own border vigilante group because they think he's just someone trying to cross the border. And we get to the end, and Jessica Alba's character is like, hey, I pulled some strings. I got some contacts. I got you your green card. You're legal to stay here. And she's like, you can be a real man. And he's like, why do I want to be a real man when I'm already a myth? And so then she gets onto a motorcycle with him, and they're kissing as he like drives off into the sunsets, or just into the nights. And they say Machete will be back in a sequel, Machete Kills, which I have not seen, and we're not going to talk about tonight.
No.
I think that's basically the broad strokes of what happened.
Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Me?
Yeah. Just general impressions.
I worry that I'm going to disappoint you.
Oh, no.
I enjoyed myself.
Okay.
I had a good time. it seems like one of those where kind of the premise and how it came to be is kind of more interesting than the movie itself.
Oh, really?
Like, all I was thinking was, like, honestly, just the fact that they made a fake trailer and it went viral enough on YouTube that then they made a movie where Danny Trejo plays a guy named Machete who kills people with machetes. Like, that is funnier, just the series of real life events that led to this. The actual movie itself is, like, pretty all right. I think it kind of, like, it is just like gory schlocky exploitation action, and it is also like a weirdly nuanced like kind of dissection of like the border crisis and the manufacturing of this as like, you know, a media item. And those two movies aren't always the same movie, and sometimes I just wish it like there's not enough Machete just killing people with machetes for me. I wish it was more of that, but also I would be okay if it was more of a movie just about the border. It's just kind of riding two different tracks at the same time.
Okay.
In a way where I would kind of like, you'd have the hospital scene and then it's like a good bit, like you're waiting a little bit before Machete just like does some like crazy gory excessive violence again. So it was watchable. It was very fun. It was far more enjoyable than anything we've watched recently, let me be very clear. But I think it's one of those, when you say the premise like, and then Lindsay Lohan's in it and then he's just killing dudes with machetes, it's kind of like, that's really fun and interesting. And the movie itself is like, it feels like a movie where they came up with an idea for a fun like viral trailer and then like turned it into a movie. Like you can kind of see how they did this scene in the trailer, and then they just have to come up with a way to make both of those scenes happen in a movie.
Yeah, I get.
So like, I liked it. I didn't love it, but I worry I disappoint you because I think you two both came in here like, all right, this was fun, this was awesome, and that's valid.
Yeah, and I think I see where you're coming from. I get it. I think it pulled off the balance better than that.
Okay.
I think the balance of those two things was actually really good. And I really enjoyed like the effort that went into stringing together all these things. Because I think like all the trailer moments were strung together in a way that made sense. To the point that I think if I hadn't watched the trailer beforehand, I don't know. There's like, with one exception, I don't know if I'd be able to point to, that's from, that just seems like totally out of place. It's from something else. I think they did a really good job with like the styling of this movie. Like there are moments in like the first few minutes where it's showing like the 3 years ago bit where Danny Trejo like gets betrayed. Is in the super heavy film grain with lots of like errors in the film medium and stuff. And they use that to like hide cuts and things, and it's really cool. I've never seen that before.
When this first started off, I really liked the aesthetic of it. I really liked that it had this heavy, dirty, grungy like grain, and I'm also very happy it was just for that opening scene.
Oh yeah, it was just for like the prologue to the movie.
I'm like, this is cool, and then it went away, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, okay, good. It still had like a pretty heavy film grain throughout the movie, but the beginning was like, this was shot on like homemade film stock. Like it was rough.
This stock has been hit with like the vinegar syndrome. Like it's starting to rot. Like it's been stepped on. It's been stored improperly. Like,
but it really lent itself to like, I don't know. There's like a visceral nature to the whole thing.
The opening like 10 minutes just tastes like coins visually.
Yeah, it's just like this like really
battery on your tongue,
crunchy, like homemade. I don't know, like industrial feel to everything.
It feels like a grindhouse movie.
Yeah, like very grungy, but like reveling in it, having fun with that idea, and just really running with it and taking it over the top to the point that like at certain points, like a quarter of the screen is just like empty black space from like film corruption. But they use that in ways that it like hides cuts. So you have Machete like stabs a guy with his machete, and the other end of the machete pops out of his back.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah. But like there's like a error in the film, and so like it hides a cut in a way that really works with the aesthetic of the movie. And I just thought it was really fun. And it took a surprising amount of artistry.
He does not just kill people with machete. He stabs through people's heads, like completely through people's guts. He spins and decapitates like 5 people at a time.
Yeah.
Like that is what you're signed up for.
Completely over
And
the
that
top.
does.
And
that
that's
does
how the
take some
movie
artistry.
opens. Like that's the first scene is him like running into this building and just absolutely demolishing these guys. Like spinning around and chopping 3 guys' heads off at once with a machete. Like just wild stuff. And so I think I was surprised by just examining how all this stuff was done, just looking at the film, the amount of effort and artistry it took to pull that off in a way that was satisfying and not like there's a way to do that makes everything look cheap.
Yeah.
This looks like it was cheap, but everybody knew what they were doing. Like there was talent
Parts of the movie do look cheap.
Yes. But there was
a
lot of
cheapness.
it was intentional. Nothing looks like well, we couldn't afford to do it any other way, or like nothing looks like a mistake. Like if anything looks weird or off, like it feels intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really liked about this movie is that everything feels intentional. I don't think there's anything in here that was an actual error in the film. I don't think it made any mistakes.
No, I would agree with that.
Which that's why I'm ranking this very, very high.
Very, very high.
Just like as a movie. There are lots of things to which I object in this film, but
really,
but I think just the artistry on display is incredible. That's my take.
Hans,
where are you at?
Hans, where are you at, buddy?
This is like a solid 3 stars liked it for me. It was not a good movie, but it was a very, very, very fun
Am I the most positive on this? This is weird.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, I'm much closer to Zach. Like this, I had a really good time watching this because it was just like it was very full of itself on purpose. It was a lot of senseless violence string back to back to back with very tenuous like a very tenuous relationship between what scene came before and what scene came after, but it works because it's supposed to be like just kind of goofy. And I really enjoyed that. And there was enough like Zach, you talked in the middle of your recap about how there's a lot of filler in the middle. There's a lot of good guys going after bad guys going after good guys, but there's stuff there. Like there's enough to keep you entertained. Like this was an hour and 40 minutes and it felt like 25 minutes went by like watching this movie. Whereas the stuff we've been watching recently, it feels like an hour. And as a matter of fact, it doesn't even feel like an hour and a half. It feels like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just dragging and dragging.
Yep.
This was just a really enjoyable, stupid, fun, goofy, gory action movie. And I loved it.
Well,
but it was not like a good movie.
So like maybe part of this, like I'm the odd man out here. And one of the things that I really appreciated about this movie was the way that it treats Mexican culture. Like, I mean, it's what was the word you used? Like, it's a Mexican exploitation film. Is that mexploitation?
Yeah, I saw the term mexploitation.
Oh yeah, okay,
when I was looking
that
this
tracks.
up,
It's a
which I
mexploitation
love.
film made by
yeah.
Mexican filmmakers. And it just like revels in Mexican culture in ways that I found very, very funny. So I am not Mexican. I don't know if anybody knew that.
Really?
But neither are all the people playing Mexicans in this movie, and I want to talk about that. But it's very intentional. But I do like work with Mexican people almost every single day, and I spend a lot of time with them. I'm not gonna pretend I am Mexican. I am not. I'm not like, oh, I'm an honorary Mexican. No, that's really cringe. No. But I do spend a lot of time in like living in Mexican culture, and am expected as part of my job to participate in like Mexican cultural things. And so there are lots of things in here that I recognized. And also speaking Spanish I think changes a lot of stuff here. Like there's stuff that gains an extra texture to it if you speak a little bit of Spanish when you watch this movie. Like there are lots of things that just kind of expects you to know about like the Spanish language and little things about Mexican culture and stuff like that. But I really, really enjoyed those bits, and that might I think examining myself and this movie is kind of a big part of why I'm ranking it so high and why I liked it so much. I think it was just a really cool celebration of a very real, not Disneyfied, like very real lived Mexican culture, just cranked up to 11. Like that caravan of Mexicans driving to like take over go and fight the vigilantes was hilarious to me. Because I see that stuff.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah. Like I see that stuff. Or like when they do the montage of like all these Mexicans calling each other to like get each other together on this mission. I think it was really funny and just a genuine expression of the Mexican American experience. I think it was really cool to see that on film in a way that it felt played up, but just by like increasing and amplifying the things that are already there, not by like smoothing edges or like cartoonifying anything, but just taking the authenticity and cranking it like beyond. It felt beyond authentic, not inauthentic.
Okay.
That's my take.
I mean, that makes sense for how it would depict a culture in a movie where also it is called Machete and the guy's name is Machete and he kills people with a machete.
Yeah. Yes.
Like you're not getting the grounded, like realistic portrayal of.
No, you're getting.
It is a heightened reality.
You're getting the kinds of things. Like it's an amplified version of Mexican culture that could only be amplified by someone who actually lives it. Mm-hmm. It's not amplified by someone from the outside, because someone looking in from outside would accentuate totally different things. Mm-hmm. But someone from within the culture, when they choose to amplify their own culture, like focus on completely different things than someone from outside would. And I found in this like a real authenticity about what it means to be a Mexican, like someone of Mexican descent living in the United States, what that looks like and what it feels like. Because I mean, I've spent years sitting and talking with them and listening to their experiences, and this felt very authentic to me, in an elevated, sort of, exaggerated way, but in a way that could only be exaggerated by someone who's really living it.
So, do you actually want to talk a bit about whenever you were watching this movie? You made a comment about like very obviously like some people who are portraying characters Mexican who are not actually Mexican in real life, like.
So there's one.
Oh, you look so excited.
There's one in particular. So there's this kid who is like.
Okay, okay. I should have known that's where.
I'm having a hard time talking about it because it's so funny. So in Machete, there's this kid who like hangs around with Michelle Rodriguez and like helps out in this resistance network or something. But he's got curly red hair and he's white as snow. And he's like talking like he has this thick Mexican American accent and he like throws in random Spanish words into his vocabulary. And he's played by, and this is really funny to me, Daryl Sabara, who I was like watching this movie, like racking my brain. Who is this kid?
You're like, wait, he's so
familiar to me. I don't know who this is. He played Junie in Spy Kids.
What?
This is
Really?
This is his fourth outing.
I like the second or third scene he like showed up.
Yes.
And finally it clicked.
This is in his filmography. I believe this is his third or fourth outing as a Mexican American. He is ethnically Jewish Russian. And so for him to be playing this Mexican character, which it's like kind of this inside joke between him and Danny Trejo, because the character Machete is in Spy Kids. Like he's a major point, like he's a major part of the plot of Spy Kids 1 at least, which I watched as a young child. But like I have in my head, like in Spy Kids 2, it's revealed that Junie leaves the Spy Kids and like goes rogue. And my thought is that it's the same guy. It's just his name is Julio now. Danny Trejo does Daryl Sabara, his character offhandedly mentions that he's adopted. And Danny Trejo is like, yeah, I know.
No, this 100%. His whole every single time he appears on screen. This is just an inside joke with Robert Rodriguez and Danny Trejo and Daryl Sabara. Like, this is alternate. This is Cholo Junie from Spy Kids.
Yeah, and it's awesome. It's hilarious. And also Robert De Niro at the end, the way he escapes from like the whole situation. There's this big firefight going on. The way that he escapes from everything is Michelle Rodriguez says, if you want to survive this, you have to become Mexican really fast. And so they like dress him up as a stereotypical Mexican. And Robert De Niro gets away by pretending to be Mexican. And it is
not for long though.
Very, very. Oh, well, I think his death scene, his multiple death scenes, are the most genius thing about this movie.
Elaborate.
Okay, so he dies every kind of poetic death appropriate to his character.
Okay.
So his first death is so he has one near death, which is completed at the end of the movie, but he almost dies by execution from like the militia that he helped form because he betrayed the Constitution or whatever in their mind. Then he is killed by Lindsay Lohan as revenge for him killing her father. So De Niro kills Booth, who is Lindsay Lohan's dad in this movie. So she kills him. Also gives one of the funniest lines in the movie. In the name of my father, bang. I forget the rest. And that was very, very funny to me. I think Lindsay Lohan killed it in this movie. I think she was very, very funny. So that's his first like poetic death, is that he dies to the child of the man that he killed. But he ends up surviving that. He has a bulletproof vest on. So then he runs away, and then he gets shot by the like militia guys. And finally, like, they actually do like shoot him at the end of the movie. They find him in the middle of the night because he's dressed like a Mexican, and so they think he's like an illegal immigrant. And so they shoot him, and he's dying. But as he's dying, he falls onto the electrified border wall that he built, and that's what finally kills him. So he dies 3 poetic deaths in this movie to all the things, like all of the terrible things that he did, all come back and kill him. He gets 3 poetic deaths, and I think that's really cool how the movie did that. I think that was really genius, actually.
Okay, I see where you come from. I do also appreciate at that one towards the end, it's not just that like they're so far away and they got him down, like they're pretty close to him, and that part of it comes from the fact that he can't communicate with them. Like, I think that does also kind of add another layer to it, that like his, like, he just can't speak, like his mouth is like full of blood or whatever, so he can't say, hey guys, no, I'm the senator, you know me, like we're buds, while they're shooting him. And I think having that layer of like not being able to like understand, not being able to communicate really adds to that.
And they make the assumption that he doesn't speak English, that he only speaks Spanish, because they can't understand him. And so he dies these poetic, like multiple poetic deaths, and I think they did it in a way that was that worked really well for the movie. Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
Also, Cheech played a good priest. It was very funny.
Okay, so actually that's a fun little... So from the original trailer, you had Machete himself, obviously. You had Danny Trejo. You had Cheech from Cheech and Chong, who plays his brother. Sorry, Padre. And was there anyone else in the original trailer? I know it was very prominent,
Booth,
like this bald white guy in the trailer.
Booth,
doesn't make it
played by Jeff Fahey. He was in the original trailer as well.
You have, and you also have like certain ones, like Lindsay Lohan was not in the original trailer, but you have like Machete making out with like these 2 women that one of them would end up being like Lindsay Lohan's character. Like you can't see her face too well in the trailer. So like, but yeah, it is outside of that, like most of the cast, even though the fact that they made a fake trailer, like it is just interesting to see like 3 people that were in that original trailer, like the original almost like pitch for the movie. And then you have Michelle Rodriguez, Steven Seagal, like Lindsay Lohan, like Don Johnson, like Jessica Alba, Robert De Niro. Like the amount of cast that was added to this that like in a way did not exist in the first version, the first depiction of this movie.
I was amazed at the talent that they pulled for this. This was crazy.
Right. And I was amazed at the talent they pulled. And the thing that I think, like, I felt this the most with Robert De Niro, but I was watching this like, I think he's just having fun.
Yeah.
Like, he's just cutting loose. He's like, yeah, I've been in like some of the greatest movies of all time, whatever. And now I'm in Machete, and he's just having fun.
He's having a good time. He's just hanging out with Lindsay Lohan. They're having a good time. Cheech is there. Got Don Johnson. They get to hang out with Michelle Rodriguez and Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
Everyone's having a good time. Also, Steven Skull's like hanging out in the background.
Steven Skull is there. He's like in the scene in the beginning, like on screen with Danny Trejo, like, and like a bunch of other characters. And then I'm not even kidding. He just spends most of the movie. He's just chilling somewhere else.
He's hanging out in hot tubs with scantily clad women and sitting on like Zoom calls.
And yeah, just zooming into the bad guys, being like, "Hey, be better, bad guys." And then he shows up like for the last scene. That's his involvement in the movie.
Yeah.
So should we actually talk about Machete as a Steven Skull film?
Can I talk about the priest first?
Oh yes, of course. I would not
My
take this from
favorite
you.
character.
I'm sorry.
He was very, very funny. Oh my gosh.
I really was not sure where you were gonna land on. I'm really.
I don't want to scandalize anybody. I know priests who talk like this. Like, to give you a little, like, blink into the clerical world. I know priests who talk like this. He has my favorite line in the movie, but I can't say it again. Because I am not one of those priests who talks like this.
He also has my favorite line in the movie, but it doesn't have any swears in it.
Oh, what's your favorite line in the movie?
Oh, so you just need to swap favorite lines.
Maybe. He says to Danny Trejo, "It's not safe for you to be here." And Danny Trejo goes, "I'm not looking for safe." And she says, "I know. I mean, it's not safe for me, for you to be here."
He does say one thing. So like he and Father Cheech does some terrible things that.
Okay, actually, wait. But his character's name in the movie is even funnier. His full name is Padre Benicio del Toro. It's just the actor, just the real life actor Benicio del Toro.
I didn't know
Father
that.
Benicio del Toro.
Father del Toro, Father
Exactly.
Benicio. He like has this kind of a long conversation with Danny Trejo. First what he does is he has like recordings of Booth's confessions, which immediate excommunication.
Okay,
like instantly.
As soon as I saw that, all I could think though is when we were watching the Steven Seagal gambling movie. That's not really a gambling movie. The Wanted, Steven Seagal's Wanted.
Yeah.
And we talk about that, how like the bad guy shows up to the priest, and even just the priest saying, "Oh yeah, he's been in confession, but I can't tell you what he said."
Yeah.
Is already crossing an ethical boundary. Yeah. When he just pulls out like CDs,
like transcripts,
recordings of this guy, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is the next 14 levels."
Yeah,
like he's just recording his confessions.
But he talks about some of the stuff that he's been telling him in confession, and then he says this line just like really hit me. He said, "I don't know. I guess I'm cheaper than a shrink," yes. Which like. This podcast is not about theology, but if you're going to confession is not therapy. Confession is for the forgiveness of sins. I am not a trained therapist. You can't come in and confess your problems to me and expect me to fix them. That's not what that's for. I am there to hear what you did wrong, to give you some counsel on how to fix it, and to forgive your sins. I'm not a psychologist.
There's not like a whole lot of back and forth there.
No, it's a different kind of thing. Here's how I'll say my favorite line, and you're gonna edit this, and I'm gonna say this so that people know what's going on here. I'm not going to say the bad word, but I want you to just insert a bleep sound so that it sounds like I said the bad word.
Okay.
Really?
So.
But you want to be very clear, removing the artifice of the podcast from itself, that when somebody's listening, I am not bleeping you out. I am bleeping you out saying bleep.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So.
No naughty words.
Yes. So, Father Benicio del Toro has had enough of Danny Trejo and he wants him to get out. And so he like makes the sign of the cross over his head and says, "I absolve you of all your sins. Now get the
Bleep
out." And it's hilarious. I had to like pause the movie for a second because I thought that was one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Because like I've never heard a priest say this, but I know priests that I 100% know have done that.
Like, oh yes, bless you. Now get out.
Yes. Like that was one of the funniest things in the world to me. That is my favorite line of this movie by far. It's not even close. That was hilarious. Also, the when Father Benicio is like fighting against the mercenaries that are sent to kill him, and he has like 2 pump action shotguns. The music that's playing it's not the Ave Maria. It's the melody of like Ave Maria. It's that melody, but it's totally different lyrics. And it's in Spanish, and it's actually really beautiful. It was kind of a cool hymn about the Blessed Virgin Mary, but completely different words than the Ave Maria. It was really cool. I thought that was really well done.
I think my favorite part about him is that he shows Danny Trejo his like surveillance setup.
Yeah.
And it's like 5 or what would be 6 monitors, 6 like old CRT monitors stacked on top of each other in the shape of a cross. Just like 2 monitors off to the sides hovering so that it's monitors shaped like a cross. It was perfect.
It was very funny.
I mean, I think we can pretty much all agree that's the father. Like the priest is maybe just like the best part of this.
Yeah, he's very, very funny.
My favorite line also
Without a
comes
doubt.
from him is just, "Please, Father, have mercy." And then he says, "God has mercy, I don't." And like blasts the dude in the face with a shotgun. I think that was my favorite line in the movie. It very much feels like the Lindsay Lohan line later on when she says like, "In the name of my father." And I forget the rest.
It's great.
Hans, any thoughts you had about Machete just as the film Machete, not the Steven Seagal movie Machete, just as Machete?
No, not really. It was fun.
Yeah,
That's
fun.
it. That's all I got. It was incredibly goofy, very full of itself, very purposeful. I liked it. It wasn't a good movie, but it was a fun movie.
I thought it was a good movie.
But I think that word you used is very telling. It was like purposeful, I think is a good way to describe it, because when we welcome back to Steven Seagal. When we discuss this in the context of the other movies that we've been watching, it like one thing I was struck by is how much it does the same things these other movies do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But I don't hate it.
Yeah.
But the execution is so much better. It's
like he just like walks in and there's like a woman who's naked there for no reason, but it's like it's different.
But it didn't just feel like somebody's creepy desire to do that.
Right.
Like it fit within the artifice of this thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like it made Danny
sense.
Trejo takes off his shirt. He doesn't just sit there in a leather jacket.
This is true. In the scene,
it's such a small detail, but it makes a world of a difference.
In the scene, like when he's in the pool with Lindsay Lohan and that character's mother, like he's shirtless. Like you see Danny Trejo's chest. Like he appears to be in a similar state of undress to them. Crazy. What a concept.
Well, just like I was just watching this whole movie thinking, Danny Trejo is everything that Steven Seagal wished he could be.
Yes, 100%. Easily.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But doesn't have any joy about himself to accomplish. Like, Danny Trejo, just watching this movie, it's a very silly movie, but you can tell, like, he as an artist is taking himself very seriously. Like, he is making something, and he's very intentional about making something. And Steven Seagal wants everything to come off as effortlessly as it does for Danny, and so he doesn't put in effort, which is not how you make something appear effortless.
I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it.
Because that's all I could think of is just so much Danny Trejo in this is just what Steven Seagal would want to be.
Yeah.
It's like even trying to go for a similar thing that Steven Seagal movies go for, but this one's going for it purposefully rather than accidentally.
Yeah.
Like I'm even gonna give Steven Seagal some credit here. The character he plays here, him like as the villain.
Yes.
This is what Steven Seagal like should be in his other movies.
This is his best
he
performance
actually
I've
is
seen.
Even better. He is elevated by this
yes,
movie.
This is the best performance I've seen out of Steven Seagal. I think this entire
I'm like,
time.
oh, if he could do this in his other movies,
yeah,
okay, we wouldn't have as much of a problem.
Now let's put a cap on that though, because his performance here was not stellar. It was still bad, but Aaron's right. It's the best we've seen in a very long time. And I, honest to God, I think that's because he was on the set of a Danny Trejo movie. He wasn't on the set of a Seagal movie.
Yeah.
He was like actually trying because there were more important people there than him.
I mean, because I can imagine you take like such a pseudo tough guy like Seagal, who likes to kind of boss his way around like a film set by just like randomly kicking dudes in the nards until he gets what he wants. That's not going to work with Robert Rodriguez.
No.
And Danny Trejo.
No.
Like, I'm sorry, but that's
Danny
not
Trejo
gonna
will like
happen.
actually beat you. I think. Like I don't.
Even Robert Rodriguez will kick your ass. Like he's not gonna. He's like, hey, I'm trying to make this movie with like half the crew of another movie and like a quarter of the budget. I'm not gonna let you force rewrites 3 weeks before we start filming.
No, absolutely not.
Like Robert Rodriguez will fire useful people off a set if he thinks that they're not as useful as they could be. He's not gonna let Seagal like bog the whole thing down and like turn it into a different movie halfway through.
But I already said, but I do think this is the best performance we've seen out of Seagal. At least since the 80s.
No, that like opening scene when he's like killing Machete's wife and like his whole thing with like the katana there. That I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like a fun.
Now he is the other non-Mexican actor playing a Mexican, which
so much less convincingly.
But so. I think in both cases with him and Daryl Sabara, and this is the only way I will compare these two actors. Is that it's kind of an inside joke, I think. So like Daryl Sabara, because this is not the first time he's playing a Mexican, and like kind of got the start of his career doing that, and it's kind of an inside joke with everybody that he's in this very Mexican American celebration of Mexican American culture film, and he is not those things, but he's pretending to be. But Seagal here playing a villain, and I didn't know really anything about Steven Seagal in the year of our Lord 2010, so I don't know what the discussion around him was, but he is very accustomed to playing ethnicities of which he is not a member, and I think it's kind of an inside, not good at, but accustomed to. I think it might just kind of be another inside joke, similar to Daryl, that Steven plays into ethnicities of which he is not a member, but it's kind of okay because he's the villain, and it's kind of funny. And this Mexican production gave him permission.
To a certain extent, though, because let's talk about Steven Seagal's character in this movie, because yes, he does play a Mexican drug lord. However, he doesn't wear clothes that would be associated with that sort of character.
No, he wears his Seagal uniform.
And he carries around his weapon of choice is 2 katanas.
Okay, but
and he is accompanied by a young Japanese man.
But I think this affirms what Aaron's saying even more.
Yeah, he gets to Seagal it up. What this movie does is it accentuates everything about a character that makes them interesting. It just cranks it up to 11. So like the first time we see Seagal, he just walks into a room with a naked woman and pulls out a katana and orders someone to kill her. The second time we see Seagal, he's just in a mansion, just packed to the gills with women in bikinis and like topless women, just lounging around. Like that's all we know about his character, which is like what he has wanted to be in the like previous 10 movies that we watched. They just didn't have the budget to pay that many extras willing to take their clothes off in the presence of Steven Seagal. Like it's everything. He is playing almost himself.
Well, and like you said, it feels like this kind of knowing, like this wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah.
Like we talk about how in other movies he is like doing very poor approximation of an African American accent, like also mixed with like a Chinese accent, also mixed with just like his husky voice. Like he kind of views, like he just sees stereotypical qualities and traits and behaviors of other cultures and other ethnicities, and he just thinks, I want that. If I want to do that, I'm going to do it. It doesn't matter if I'm trying to be black this sentence and I'm trying to be Japanese the next sentence. So that's why I feel like it has to be like, this has to be like a knowing like wink to the camera, at least like on the part of like Robert Rodriguez, like letting him out. It seems like Steven Seagal's in on the joke. Maybe it's a little hard to tell.
Don't know.
Like the fact that he is vaguely doing a Mexican accent, playing a Mexican drug lord, but then kind of wearing his Seagal like classic like robe muumuu and like carrying around like a katana, like is the type of racial blending he normally does, but it feels a bit more self-aware. It's like, oh yeah, he's, because that's kind of the character he plays. That's the character he is in this movie.
Like within the context of this movie, it felt like his bad Mexican accent wasn't just him being bad at doing an accent. Like it almost felt like part of the character. Like,
and I think that's what's wild about this movie is that even like the exact same thing Seagal does in other movies that I'm like rolling my eyes at. I'm like, I can't stand this. This is awful. He shows up here doing the exact same stuff, and I'm like, okay. Let's hear him out. Oh, yeah,
well, that's because I think you're right. In this movie, it's supposed to just be a joke.
Yeah,
like it's supposed to be goofy. When he does those things in his other movies, he's not trying to be
playing it totally straight, and it drives me up the wall.
Exactly, he's being dead serious. He thinks he's selling it.
Nobody's there to challenge him.
And I think, especially looking at like his seppuku scene, I think Steven Seagal.
I have so much to say.
I think Steven Seagal doesn't know he's being made fun of. I don't think he's in on the joke. I think Robert Rodriguez is really good at using Steven Seagal, but I don't think Steven is in on it.
This is something I was wondering since way back. When you go back and listen to Above the Law, like I'm talking within our first like 3 or 4 episodes. Danny Trejo is like man running at like start of the movie. Like it's not even like his earliest film credit, because I think we said it was like 17 in or something. Yeah. But it's very early.
He has a non-speaking role in the prologue to a Seagal film. Yeah.
So they go back to some extent. So like just the entire existence of this movie of Seagal being a Machete, I've been wondering, like, is this like they're actually buddy? They're like, hey, we're both like kind of movie stars. Like, or is this Danny Trejo's like he's going up to his real friend Robert Rodriguez and he's like, yo, we should try to get this like Steven Seagal guy. Like, this guy's gonna walk in and he's gonna act like he's black and think he's.
I think maybe my take on it was that it was Danny doing Steven a solid.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. I think it's
what
him
my
doing
assumption
him a
was,
favor.
but as we've talked about it here, I've become less sure.
Yeah,
because when you look at the cast, you have obviously Danny Trejo, Michelle Rodriguez, Jessica Alba, Robert De Niro, Cheech Marin, Lindsay Lohan, many others. Don Johnson and Steven Seagal in 2010.
He's the weird.
He's
the left turn in this list.
Theatrical release world for years,
like a decade.
He has not been like headline news other than maybe scandals for ages.
Yeah,
it has to just be that I can't imagine any other scenario other than he and Danny Trejo have some kind of like long-term friendship, however you would want to call it, and Danny Trejo is just like, hey, he's fallen on some rough times. Can we get him a part in this movie?
See, I don't disagree because that's what my first assumption was, but I'm also willing to entertain the possibility of like, hey, I know the Steven Seagal guy. I worked with him a while back. Like, wouldn't it be funny if he was like the main villain and like we just let him just like we give him the directions, he just does his thing, we just like zoom him in for the rest of the movie so he doesn't actually have to interact with most of the cast. Like I could see it honestly going either way. I'm not even gonna disagree with you. I'm just gonna say there's the possibility. I
could see it going both ways,
or it could be doing a solid, or both.
I could see it both at the same time. Yeah. Like,
let me do him a solid, and also we're gonna make fun of like take the out of him.
Yeah, and like maybe. Like if I'm gonna give Danny Trejo the most charitable light possible, which I want to because I like Danny Trejo. It's just like, well, okay, he's really horrible to work with, and no one really likes making movies with him. And he's not very good at it. But I kind of owe him one, and it might help him out we're gonna like limit his Seagal-ness, and we're gonna channel it into like a very fine point, even if he's not on board, even if he doesn't know that that's what's happening, because it's unclear from the way that he's acting whether he knows that's what's happening. And maybe it'll help him out. He hasn't been in the same sentence as the rest of this cast in over a decade at this point. Like, he will not be in the same room as more famous people until he goes and shakes the hand of Vladimir Putin. Like,
God.
You know, it's actually really upsetting. It's actually kind of upsetting to realize that technically Steven Seagal has been in a movie with Robert De Niro.
I just think it's cool that Robert De Niro and like Lindsay Lohan and Cheech were in a movie together.
Yeah.
Aaron, I like that. I think that's the theory I'm gonna hope is real.
Yeah.
I like that the best because I can't come up with any other scenarios in which this movie could have had Steven Seagal in it because it just doesn't make sense.
Although, Hans, I think you wanted to talk about the seppuku scene.
I did.
Go ahead.
Where he commits Sudoku.
So, Seagal and Danny Trejo have a machete to katana fight, which does not last very long because they can't, like, in any other in all of Seagal's movies this far where he has had any kind of knife fight, it's been the most weird, spammy, like just throwing hands wildly in front of you action that doesn't really make any sense. So I would imagine that they put the kibosh on that. We're not going to let that happen in Machete. So that does not go on for very long. It would appear that Seagal has the upper hand and Danny Trejo's on the ground and the whole crowd gasps and then Danny Trejo stabs him through the gut. And then Seagal just stands there. He just stands there, like, sort of wiggling back and forth, just, like, shifting his weight from one.
There was one line that I was
another.
hoping for that I never got.
What?
You think this is getting stabbed? This isn't getting stabbed.
He basically says that, but you're absolutely right. He just he's just standing there giving lines, shifting weight from one foot to the other with a machete sticking through him the whole way through him, and he says,
all the
this is
shots
nothing.
that are filmed
You think
from
this is
forward.
What?
I was gonna say, but with all these shots from forward, you can just tell like they put like a pillow like under his like shirt, and the sword is just stuck in that.
Oh yeah,
like you see it moving under his clothes.
Oh yeah, no, it's so goofy, and he just like
It's so good
in typical Seagal fashion, in the way that he delivers his lines. It's like me, like when I stutter because I can't get out the words that are in my brain, I can't say them. That's how he talks.
Yeah.
So he just kind of that sort of thing. And he does that, and he draws out this sequence of lines where he's basically telling Danny Trejo that this is nothing. I could walk this off. There's no way that this actually hurts me, because he's just standing there with the machete sticking out of his gut. And then he finally goes, I don't remember the exact line. One of you said it earlier. You're gonna if
I could kill you so easily, but then you'd just be waiting in hell for me, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly it. I could kill you so easily with a machete sticking out of his gut because he's still holding his katana. I could kill you so easily, but you'd just be waiting for me in hell. So I guess I'll just die. And I thought that he was gonna take the machete out and bleed to death, but he doesn't.
No.
He twists it in his gut and just goes, this hurts, or something like that, like it, and then just
and dies,
and then just sort of lays himself on the ground, and then like he's smiling the whole time, lays himself on the ground, doesn't make any like grunts or anything, just says it, twists a machete. I don't know, machetes are wide blades. You can't just like twist that in your gut, but he does. Oh my god, it's the
because it's only half a machete sticking out of a pillow under his shirt.
And the other half sticking out of like a wooden board like taped to his back.
Yeah.
It's the stupidest. Like, this movie is very full of itself. It is very dumb. It's very purposeful in itself, taking itself. You get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's
but
very
this
specific.
Was one of the scenes, one of the only scenes that was like that. It doesn't fit. It just doesn't work.
I think it does. But the movie also assumes that you know who Seagal is.
Well, okay, so I guess I'm thinking about it in from my watching experience, and after experiencing this whole movie and then seeing this scene at the end of it. But in the context of your theory of them just letting Seagal ham it up as Seagal in this movie, not play a character but just play himself.
He's not playing Torres. He's playing Steven Seagal.
Yeah, you know what? Then it does. Then it tracks. Then it makes sense if you think about it like that.
That's how I saw his character. Like, he's just hitting every Seagal trope that we've been witnessing the past like 20 movies. In rapid succession.
It just the smile he had, the like really weird smirk that he has on his face as he's twisting a machete in his gut. And then just like lays himself on the ground and dies.
Yeah.
Well, and just that even the whole time there, that he like, it's not even like, ooh, oh, you got me, I guess I'm gonna choose death. He's just kind of like awkwardly standing like, huh. Like, he's not even acting like he's anywhere close. He's just like, huh.
No.
Oh, that's, you got it in me first. Oh, that's, oh, I guess I'm gonna die then.
Yeah. Because like, this is the only kind of death that a Steven Seagal character could die in a Steven Seagal movie. Like, it's his choice. He wasn't actually bested. He chose to lose. It can only be self-inflicted. It's the only kind of death that a Steven Seagal character could die in a Steven Seagal movie. Like, it's like
true.
Steven's in a different movie that's just happening at the same time as the Danny Trejo movie, and they cross paths at the beginning and the end.
This is also the first time that I think another reason why Steven Seagal's character works in this movie where it hasn't worked in any of his other movies. He plays the villain in this one. We've never seen him play the villain.
Yeah.
Now, you could argue that he is the villain because he just kills people and causes untold mayhem and doesn't get punished for it. But that's not the character that he plays.
No.
This is the first time he's played the villain.
And they had to change literally 0 things about his character to make that work.
And is this
And
first?
It works better that way.
Is this the first time he's died in one of these movies?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so technically this does kind of have me wondering, like, we have skipped other movies where Seagal is in, but in smaller roles where he is not the lead. We did not watch Clementine. We did not watch Executive Decision.
Yeah.
This has me wondering. I don't know if maybe we should go back and like hit those just to fully cover everything. So maybe he dies in one of those, but he barely gets injured in his own movies.
Yeah.
You think he's dying?
Like, he'll get shot in the head,
You think
and
this
then
is
like the
being
next
shot?
scene just stand up.
This isn't getting shot.
Yeah.
This isn't getting shot.
Yeah. Like, he'll say crap like that.
Yeah, what happens to Michelle Rodriguez in this movie where she gets shot in the head and comes back and just has an eye patch and she's all good to go. That works in this movie, but that's just how Seagal's character is in all of his other movies that are completely serious.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is amazing to see. See, we were kind of debating if we had to watch this. I think it's good that we watch this because it's interesting to see Danny Trejo do what Steven Seagal wants to do, but make it work, while also letting Steven Seagal do what Steven Seagal does and making it work somehow. Like, Danny Trejo says, I just want to be like a badass dude that kills people with a machete, and you're like, yeah, actually, you can do that, Danny.
Yeah.
That's kind of the role you were born to play.
I just want to like walk around and have this gravelly voice and a face like an old boot, but like everyone's into it. And I'm like, yeah, actually, you can pull that off, man.
I'm not even saying like, oh yes, look at this amazing chemistry and all of the on-screen romances, but he's like on his like third sex scene. I'm like, okay, that's Machete. That's what Machete
makes
does.
sense as in the fiction of this universe.
With Seagal, just every character, it's why is she topless and why is he just fully clothed in his like trench coat?
Yeah.
Why does he randomly have a wife at the end of this movie? That was not mentioned. So this is a very interesting study to take Seagal into a different... This is almost like when you know, if you're running experiments, you need to make sure you have the control group or whatever, like to take him and put him in a different context and see what happens. And that not just that he's in a different context and you see what happens, but you're also seeing like the main character of the movie basically just is a Seagal. He just is... Danny Trejo's Machete is kind of a Seagal character, but it works.
But it works this time.
That's the character. Yeah, that's the character that you've said he should always play. The guy that the not complex, like, very
he just
few
kills
lines,
people because that's what he does.
Just he's a pure violent character.
Machete. His name is a weapon.
Although it's very much like a Seagal character. From what I've seen, when Danny Trejo and Robert Rodriguez were like crafting this, like when they they brainstormed him like years before it ended up getting made. I think the main comparison I saw was like Van Damme or something, like a similar era, like action star to Seagal. They didn't actually like, he wasn't thought of intentionally to be a Seagal character. I think it's just he was the Mexican version of like generic like white like action hero star. Which Seagal tries to be.
I think it's interesting to watch this movie as like somebody else's opinion, somebody else's take on who Steven Seagal is, because I don't know anybody in the entire world who knows as much about Steven Seagal as the other two people on the Zoom call. Like,
that's really upsetting.
But it seems like Robert Rodriguez does too, because he did a really good job of capturing the essence of who Steven Seagal is.
Like, I think after, like, both immediately before and after this movie, we have like some director who's making like 6 or 7 movies with Seagal. Like, I'm not going to say we know the most about Seagal.
No,
but we gotta be
in
gotta
like, be
the
up
top
there
percentile at this point. Like, we're in the top like 1%.
We're up there
about Seagal on
That's really
planet
upsetting
Earth.
To think about. We're the experts.
We're actually
the
in, like,
people
the top,
that someone
like,
would come to ask questions.
0.05%.
Yeah.
Like, so Machete is a Steven Seagal film that is also the inversion and the dissection of a Steven Seagal film.
Yeah, I think Robert Rodriguez has us beat on Steven Seagal knowledge because he was able to dissect Steven Seagal so masterfully.
He was able to wrangle him.
Yeah. And able to, like direct him. Direct his Seagal energy toward a good movie.
Yeah. It's a fun movie, yeah. So we've done our favorite quotes.
Yeah.
What's our star ratings? What do we send that?
I'm giving this
3 stars.
4 stars.
Oh, well, I was at 3.5, so it truly just is boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Done and done.
What would you watch instead?
Okay, here's I think we should tweak it. This week isn't what you should watch instead, because you can watch Machete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By default, it's what you should watch instead. What about like what you should just like also watch?
I honestly, this is one of the few movies that I think I could actually recommend if this was your kind of movie. Like if the gory, bloody, stupid, fun, goofy action movie is something that you would enjoy, then I wouldn't shy away from it.
Like, let's be very clear. They're in a hospital. There is a doctor who is staring at a woman's rear end, and she says, "I can feel your eyeballs in my uterus." And he says, "Well, just be glad they're not in your colon." Hey, did you know that the colon is like twice as 10 times as long as the human body? And then Steven Seagal uses that's a setup, because then the callback is not Steven Seagal, Danny Trejo. I'm sorry, force of habit. It's like that Simpsons quote, "Bart, no." What? I'm right here. Oh, sorry, force of habit. Lisa, no. I'm like, Seagal, no. Oh, Trejo, no. But the setup is this like joke about like how long your like intestines are, and then Steven Seagal uses a man's intestines to repel like down a floor into another window. Like, that happens in the movie, and I recognize that's not a movie everyone wants to watch.
That is also something that like Steven Seagal, there is no setup and payoff in a Seagal movie. No. That's like a dumb thing that happens in the movie, but there's a setup and a payoff. Like,
and that's why it stuck really out so I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, their little conversation about how long the intestine is was like for dialogue, was for a reason.
Yeah, it didn't just happen, because like
surprise.
I can imagine a Seagal movie having a very similar line about I can feel your eyes, but that wouldn't go anywhere. It was just to have a gross line.
Exactly.
It would just be to have this gross moment.
Else?
What?
In this movie, Danny Trejo has to escape a hospital while being wounded, and it takes him, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of this movie.
Oh, did we
I
lose
thought.
him?
I think
you're not. No, that's it. That's the whole thing. No, he escaped the hospital in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It took how many 6 idiots an hour and a half to escape the world's biggest hospital? You're not.
There were several. Well,
see, I didn't realize you were doing it.
I was waiting for the big
Well, there are several hospital escapes in Seagal movies, and they all take forever.
My brain was going to Hard to Kill.
Yeah,
I wasn't realizing you were going.
Yeah, my brain was in Hard to Kill territory.
That one still didn't take as long as an entire movie to escape the world's largest hospital in a vampire apocalypse.
I would say if you liked this, particularly if you liked Father Benicio del Toro, then I would watch Velocipaster.
That's a good one.
So imagine if the whole movie were about Father Benicio del Toro, but it's not quite as well done. It's not quite as well put together.
And also he turns into a dinosaur.
And also it's made at like 1% of the budget of this. They made the entire movie for like 10 grand. And it's somehow even less accurate with all the priest stuff.
Somehow.
Yeah. I cannot turn into a dinosaur. That's
not without attitude.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the inaccurate part.
Yeah.
You just haven't found, what was it? He found like a rock or something, right? Or was it a claw?
It was a dragon's tooth.
That's what it was. You just haven't found that yet. Once you find your
says,
dragon's tooth, then you'll be able to turn into a dinosaur.
Yeah.
What's the thing that says like for God?
You don't remember me, do you, brother? It was so good.
Velocipaster. Velocipaster's funny. You should watch Velocipaster. Hans, what would you recommend to watch alongside, in addition, instead, whatever?
Oh man,
I have another one. If you want one.
Yes, please.
Spy Kids 2.
Spy Kids 2. See, I think that's, for me, that's where I would go, is just like, hey, you should watch some of Robert Rodriguez's other stuff if you haven't already, like Spy Kids, Shark Boy, Lava Girl, Sin City.
This did have a lot of Sin City vibes to me in the cinematography.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think it's using a lot of the same techniques as Sin City. When did
Sin City also a movie with a very interesting cast?
When did Sin City come out?
That came out in 2005.
Okay. Yeah, I think he borrowed some of the techniques that were used in Sin City for this. Like, there are scenes in this that if you pay really close attention, like, this was shot on green screen. Like, these two actors are not in the same room together.
Oh, yeah.
It has kind of like that Sin City cinematic feel to it in really interesting ways. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I mean, it also has a lot of Spy Kids vibes.
It has some Spy Kids vibes, weirdly enough.
Or you could watch the movie that kind of indirectly spawned this all. You could watch Planet Terror, or why am I blanking on the other one that was included in Grindhouse? Death Proof.
Yes.
So in that one, Planet Terror was directed by Robert Rodriguez, Death Proof directed by Quentin Tarantino, but from what I've seen, like, watch them back to back. Like, you gotta watch the whole thing with the fake trailers in there. Like, don't just watch one of those movies.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta watch Grindhouse as it was originally screened. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't really know how to close out a conversation about, like, a well-made film.
Yeah, that must be hard for, like, the podcasters that, like, talk about, like, good movies every week. Or, like, at least movies that they enjoyed.
Machete,
what do
more
we
like
have?
No,
don't more like this.
I can't.
Also, actually, you know what? Go ahead. More Machete, more like what, Aaron? If it was bad, it would be Machete, more like Machete or something.
Machete, more like my Chevy works pretty well, like this movie. Or
Machete, the Chevrolet of movies.
Our usual techniques for closing out an episode aren't working.
To be fair, our usual techniques for closing out an episode don't usually work. Next week we have Born to Raise Hell.
We've had Born to Kill.
Right back into the thing.
Yeah,
huh?
I don't.
That's
what will this do to our experience of the next one?
Go back to watching a Steven Seagal.
Yeah, what will this do to our experience of the next movie?
Raise our hopes and dash them quite expertly.
Yeah.
Although this is impressive. So he had 4 movies in 2009. Machete in 2010, Born to Raise Hell in 2010, which that doesn't seem as crazy because Machete, like, his scenes could have truly been filmed in like 4 days.
Yeah.
And then Maximum Conviction 2012, 2 years between movies. That's a long time.
That's a long time. He was just living off those Machete residuals for a while.
Gotta be. Well, actually, this is because then it's Force of Execution 2013, Good Man 2014. Like, he's 1 a year, not 3 to 4 a year.
Wow. Well, I mean, I know it's got to slow down because we're on movie 33, and that was only, 13 years ago.
Well, okay, I said that until Code of Honor, Sniper Special Ops, The Asian Connection, End of a Gun, Contract to Kill, and The Perfect Weapon all came out in 2016.
Woof.
Really?
6 movies in 2016. My man, please, what are you doing to us?
Those cannot be good.
There's 6. We do a full rotation. Like, we do, like,
full rotations.
Like, that's as I edit, Aaron edits, Hans edits. We each have 2 movies in that rotation.
Oh my gosh.
Getting through 2016 is rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for joining us for Machete, a pretty fun movie that we had a good time with.
Yeah.
There's gotta
Aaron,
be.
Aaron, say something to close us out.
Yeah.
Padre, say something to close us out.
I absolve you from your sins. Now get the heck out of here.
That means one of us has to die.
Well, I guess something to make you think is how many hours have we put into this?
Oh.
We've watched how many movies?
This is 33.
This is 33.
33
movies plus an hour to an hour and a half discussion.
I'd say probably an average of 2 hours per recording.
Less than that, like an hour and a half.
Yeah, probably you're right. You're probably right. So an average of an hour and a half per recording, and probably an average of an hour and a half per movie, maybe a little more. So about 3 hours times 33.
99
That's
hours.
99 hours, yeah. Well, I was starting to wonder, like, I don't think we're there quite yet, but we're going to have, like, a college minor in Seagal by the end of this. I'm just thinking about this in, like, credit hours.
Yeah.
Like,
how many credit hours for, like, a...
Normally, like, 15 or so. Sorry, not 15 credit.
How many credit hours for a bachelor's?
Have a class, like, when a class is 3 credits, like 3 credit hours, it's normally because you're spending like 3 hours a week on it. So that's the thing. It's not 15 in total. It's like one class would be 3 times like 14.
Mm-hmm.
Like 3 hours a week, like over like, a semester. So
yeah,
like one class is roughly like 42 hours.
Okay.
So
we've taken a couple courses.
Like 4 to 5 classes is roughly a minor.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like 210 hours. We're at like 100 hours now, we're estimating.
Yeah.
We're going to be close enough that like, I don't know how the exact math on this will work out. We're going to be close enough that I think I could get like an advisor or like a dean to like sign off on this as a minor.
Honorary college minor.
Yeah.
Like when I just think about like for literally, I got a film studies minor. Like I would watch like a movie or 2 a week and then discuss it in class. That's what we're doing. And we're doing that for
which
like
means
50 movies.
Hey, that means, dear listener, if you just listen to all these lectures, you just listen to the discussion, and as long as you can, like, talking to my college students, as long as you can fake doing the reading, they'll still give you the degree at the end.
Zach is squinting so hard.
If you just participate in the discussion and you can fake having done the reading, they'll still give you the degree.
That's like, no, that's more like, someone's helper dog getting an honorary degree in whatever they got.
Did you just compare our listeners?
No.
When they give a service dog an honorary degree.
You can't listen to a podcast.
You're like the dog we let on stage because it's a fun photo op.
It's like the equivalent in education of what you're saying we're giving to
what
our listeners.
I was going to compare it to is that we're getting our minor in Seagal. This is like whenever you do the like, hey, fun fact, you can just like take Harvard classes online for free.
Yeah.
It's worthless. It's not actually worthless. You gain knowledge. Like you can take these Harvard classes online for free. The reason why Harvard doesn't just collapse is because you still don't have a Harvard degree, even if you do all of those. If you take the online classes for free, you still need to like pay and be admitted and be there to like have a Harvard. So I think that's what this like. If you're just listening along, it's kind of like you're taking the free classes online, but it's not counting towards a degree.
Yeah. I don't have a teaching license, so Steven Seagal, Steven Seagal in Over Our Heads is not an accredited institution of higher education.
But no, there's not a single. I mean, I was thinking about this earlier because I was going through Letterboxd, and just the fact that like Steven Seagal is by far like my most watched actor on Letterboxd. Like, I literally, there's not a single director, actor, like anything that I can say I studied as much in college as I have Steven Seagal now.
and we're only what 3/5 of the way through.
More than that.
More than that.
A little bit.
More than that. Yeah.
We're trucking along. We're getting there.